Life is precious, and we all have the opportunity of living it to the fullest. Unfortunately, so few of us know how to manage it all. How do we account for our opportunities? How do we account for our time? How do we account for our relationships, health, spirituality, homes, finances, influence, and careers? How do we account for the one life we have to live? I am so glad you asked. In this program, you will find answers to all of these questions and more. Welcome to the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore.
What's happening, everybody? I'm going to welcome you back to another episode of the Account for Your Life podcast. Yes, I know this is a different setup. I'm sitting in the hotel room in San Antonio, and so I'm super excited about what's happening here, but I'm even more excited about just kind of revelation that you can get just from waking up early in the morning. So I saw something this morning because I was in San Antonio. I've never seen it, but I was listening to a sermon by Dr. Miles, maybe a few years ago, maybe a year ago. I mean, I've listened to so many, I can't even tell you when I listened to it. But he talked about something I thought was interesting. There was a conversation that he had with one of his other cohorts in the ministry. It was, I think it may have been another pastor, and the pastor was like, hey, why don't you have any pictures of the crucifixion? And, why don't you have these things up in your church so that people can, Jesus was crucified on the cross. And he says, I don't promote capital punishment. And look, I've never heard any pastor or any ministry leader just say what it was. This is capital murder. And that is kind of like if your brother, if your sister, if your father was murdered by the government, and all of a sudden you got the pictures of the murder on your walls. Does that make any sense? Like, that's saying we want to reminisce over what happened that we didn't like. That's terrible. And so as I was walking through San Antonio, right, I'm walking through San Antonio. Good morning, Deanna. How are you? I'm walking through San Antonio. I'm looking around. I start taking some pictures, and I said, wow. Now, they had these monuments of some of the old people who may have been the reason why San Antonio is what it is. And, they had, statues. And I said, wow, this is interesting. I walked around another corner. I saw a house. I think it was the Casa Navarro. I think I've heard the name, but Casa Navarro's guy that probably was known here in San Antonio, statue of him. Here's where I'm going. And I said, wow, many of us live from a place of the past. Think about this. If we live in the past, how is the past, which already happened, what are we going to do to ensure that our future, our present, becomes exactly what we would like it to be? If all I see is the old relics of what they did, then does that motivate me to do something even better? No, it doesn't. Why? Because I'm looking around. All these statues are from hundreds of years ago. There's nothing in the city that says, well, here's what happened last year. Here's what happened the year before that. Here's what happened this year. None of that. Now, the only thing that I did see that potentially is, they're not living in the past. Yeah, you're going to build some buildings. There's always going to be somebody building buildings. The hotel we're staying in the Grand Hyatt. And right next to the Grand Hyatt, they're building something. So there's always something to be built. But I'm like, that's just business, right? So so San Antonio, just like most cities, it's about, just get the businesses in there and that's it. But what about the people? What about the regular people? What about you? What about me? You live in a city. I live in a city. Is there going to be a monument of you when you're gone? Is there going to be a monument? I said, man, like right now, if I went away, I would be gone and there wouldn't be a monument. Do I want a monument? Not necessarily. What would there be though? What am I leaving behind? So it got me to thinking. we're in San Antonio, me and my partner Shauna. Um, we're doing our first speaking engagement, right? And we didn't even know what we were getting into. Um, we don't even know how many people would be in our session, but we found out that this event has over 4,000 participants. And we're like, wow, it's a lot of people. Okay, wow. So, but one of the things the Holy Spirit said to me this morning, he says, look, I've given you ability. What is ability? A few months ago when I was doing a challenge, I started looking up some words, and one of the words that I looked up was power. I looked up power. And when I looked up power, what I discovered is that power is really your ability to do something. I said, well, this is interesting. So everyone would like to have more power. Well, we got to use the power that we have. And so God's speaking to me this morning. I'm in the line getting some coffee, and all of a sudden I just hear he says, I've given you the ability. I've given you what you need, even though you're going to hear what I hear. Oh, this person said, oh, this is how you should do it. This is how you should do it. He says, it seems bigger because it's different from what they did. So what you do will be different because of the ability that I've given you. So this power that you and I have to go out into the world to present the ability, the power, the purpose for which we've been created. That power that we have is one of these powers that, I've been talking about the supernatural, and I was mentioning it this past week, and I was talking to my bro, and I was saying, yeah, we are this supernatural ability. He's looking at me like, whatever, supernatural. I don't know what you're talking about. When I call it supernatural, because when we look at God, God is supernatural, and we're just little gods. The little gods have supernatural ability. So we all have this innate ability. It's kind of like me and Shauna. Me and Shauna, I have an ability. She has an ability. She has something I don't have. Like that is amazing. I'm like, man, I got hooked up, right? And then I have something she don't have. She got hooked up. So when I look back in time and I think about what God is doing for people like you and for people like me, what God is doing, he says, it's time for your power, man. It's time for your power, Deanna. Like, give me your power. Like, stop playing around with your power, because your power is great. Your power is strong. Your power is to get out there and literally change your life, change other people's lives. That's your power. And if we don't use the power, yeah, there's not going to be a statue. Casa Navarro, the reason why his picture is up there, the reason why they got his thing up there is because Navarro decided to use his power. I think there was another one. I took a picture of the Good Knights. I think that's what Good Night or something like that was the last name. I'm like, well, Mr. Good Knight, he had a gun in his hand. He used his power. He said, you know what? I'm going to take my land. And because I'm going to take my land, look, I'm going to use this. So they got him memorialized with a gun. And because he wasn't playing, it's San Antonio. I'm sure it's a place where they have guns. And so what are we going to leave behind that someone will say, you know what? I'm going to make sure that people know what happened when Deanna was here. I know Deanna's here. I gotta make sure that I see my brother Andre was in here too. I have to make sure that my brother Andre, what Andre leaves behind. Man, I wish I had my shirt on. My shirt's in my bag somewhere. The Child of God movement, this movement where people realize who we are in God. God is who we are. And if God is who we are, then what in the heck are we doing? Like, think about this. If you knew for certain that God really put himself inside of you, how would you act? If you knew for certain, how would you act? So I know how I would act. And so that's why we're talking about this ability, this power. What are we going to leave behind? Listen, San Antonio got this thing going on where they got some memorialized people. I'm sure in other cities, a lot of cities, they got memorialization of people. But you know what? Let's make sure that when we get out of here, that whatever we did, look, it is God's, if it's God's will, the account for your life movement, the account for your life phrase, the account for life podcast, whatever God placed in me to help people on this earth will be remembered, will be memorialized somewhere on the internet where people can see thousands and thousands of episodes of who I was. Right. I don't know who Navarro was because there was no media. I don't know who Goodnight was because there was no media. There's some things written, but I can't go back and hear his voice. But we'll be able to go back and hear each other's voice. I can go back and listen to a sermon by my brother Andre, who's a pastor, but he's really just someone want to galvanize the people. So we can all change, like was it yet? No, the day before yesterday, I talked about change is nearly impossible. Nearly, but here's the thing: it's always possible. Good morning, Alonzo. It's possible to change when you change. And last time, I'm just going to quote my boy Wayne Dwyer. He says, "When you shoot, it's right on the tip of my tongue. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So let's change how we look at our lives. Let's change how we look at, what it is that we have to accomplish. Let's change, what we know about God so that we can live. When I say what we know, like really believe it, really say to ourselves, I really know God created me and God put himself inside of me. And because he put himself inside of me, then I have more ability. The ability that I have is infinitely bigger than what I'm actively using right now. So guys, this was inspired by walking through San Antonio this morning. Got a couple miles and just walking, just taking in some good breaths. So guys, I appreciate you, man. What an awesome, incredible day. We'll definitely let you know how everything goes down here in San Antonio with our first speaking engagement starting tomorrow. Looking forward to it. God bless you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next episode. Peace.
Us listening friends, we are so glad you invested this time with us. Always remember, you only have one life to live, so live it to the fullest. This has been the Account for Your Life podcast with your host, the healthy accountant himself, Jay Moore. Until next time, make it a great day.